click download files. If you open it, which I don't really care about this one. We can open the start file, enable editing, file save as. Then you can just make a new folder right there, chapter 10, put it inside. That way when you go to work with it, you'll have it in one place. And before we get started, I'll take a look at the class calendar that's in your course syllabus. I pulled it up. We got a little bit off on Friday. I wound up with a sinus infection. I apologize for that. I had to cancel. But this week here is chapter 10. It says it was due. I told you I opened up all the assignments to the end of the class. So the very first of May is when all the assignments are due. Hopefully you have it all finished before then, but just in case you can't get into my T-Lab, I opened them all up, because my T-Lab's been having some problems. So I'm going to go through chapter 1, first part, or chapter 10, the first part today. You'll do chapter 2 on your own, or the second part of the second assignment for chapter 10 on your own. It's almost the exact same thing. Unlike a lot of the other second parts, you have one or two things that are different. This one's almost the exact same thing. So you shouldn't have any problem with the second part of chapter 10. Then we've got an exam that's going to be due. I have it set for Monday, but we'll take the exam. So I have some training materials for you for the exam for chapter 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then we go into the exam, final exam. So today was on the 18th. You'll have Wednesday class time. So we're gonna have to, we'll do one today. You'll have Wednesday to do 2 and practice and review for the exam. We'll take our exam on Friday, and then we'll review for the final exam. And then you guys will come back on the final exam day. The final exam day for this class, I posted in Moodle.
We're doing it in class.
It is in class, yes. Posted in Moodle. Final exam for this class is May 2nd, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's in this same classroom. So we'll have this full week. You'll come back on Monday. I wonder if I get the test Monday. I don't know. I'll leave it up to you guys. When we get to Wednesday, we'll make the decision on the other test. We'll have Monday and Wednesday of class, and then you'll come back for the final. So, okay. Any questions on the schedule for the remainder of the class? Okay, we're going to start with chapter 10. Okay. Chapter 10 has some very useful functions for working in group projects where you'll have to make comments and corrections for each other. It also teaches you how to protect your workbook. Through all the chapters, we've worked with some very complex formulas and different things like that. If you are making a spreadsheet for someone to use, you could lock cells with a password so they can't go in there and accidentally change your functions and formulas that you worked on to make the values calculate for them. So we'll go into a little bit of that, and this is how to protect your worksheet from changes. as well as making notes or comments as you're working with the same document if you're working in teams, or for some project or for work of some sort. So that's basically what this entire chapter is sharing a spreadsheet, making changes, looking to see what the changes were that were made, and then protecting the worksheet. So let's take a look. First thing, it says change the username of the spreadsheet, the first and last, no period. In cell E13, type this message, select A1, hide all the comments. So we gotta make a comment. First thing you do, when you install Excel on your computer, if you remembered, it asks you what your name was or initials or something in order for it to install. You can change that, and that's where the name comes from for our comments. And that's how the workbook knows who's working in and who's making changes. So to do that, go to File, go down to Options, and then if you look in the group that says Personalize your copy of Microsoft Office, it says Username. You can just erase that out of there and type first and last. It's a capital F, capital L. That's all you do. No space after, no space in between. Then you just press OK there. And it says in A13, enter, this text seems too high. So we have to click in E13, which is right there. And then we need to add a comment. It says as a new comment. So comment is in the review tab. So if you click review, there's a comment section, several options. Here's the button for new. If you click there, the little bubble comes up. And notice it has the name there that we just typed in as the username. So go ahead and type in that text, this seems too high, with a period and a capital T. Gotta customize the ribbon. They might have changed it. Wish the arrow next to that one that says linking. Or linking, whatever. That's it. That's the one. They just renamed it. So see if you can double click there and rename that. Try to, just type in review with a capital. There we go, 19. Just a new comment. Okay. Then it says select A1 and hide all the comments in the worksheet. So click A1, it's a merged cell, so it highlights that text. Notice by default the comments hide, so if you notice where we just typed it in there, it's just a little red marking. If you hold the mouse over it, it pops up. So you have to go, it says to hide all of the comments, so up in the comments group, it says show hide. If you click it once, click on the show all comments button. And notice they all pop up, including the one that you typed in there. Then click it again and they all hide. So the show all comments button is a toggle. Click to show them all, and click to remove them. So that would be hiding all the comments there. Okay, then we have data validation rule. You can highlight and create an area in the spreadsheet where it'll test the values entered to see if the values entered were correct. You can set criteria that or low, high and low numbers that the numbers have to fall between. So that's a validation rule. So if we click, it says select the range C6 through C22. It says create a data validation rule to allow decimal places between 1,000 and 5,000 is exclusive to be entered in these cells. Set a stop style alert with the title transfer and invalid fare, and as the error message, and circle any invalid data. So it's talking about data, so we go to the data tab. If we look in the data tools, there's a button right up underneath remove duplicates. It says validation, data validation. Press the down arrow and then just click the first one that says data validation, and this box comes up, and the first thing it asks you, notice there's 3 tabs. First one is setting, next one is input message, next one is error alert. So in the settings, we want to allow a certain criteria, so press the down arrow and it says to allow decimal values. So in the drop down box, choose decimal, and then it says between these values. If we click this down arrow, you get between, not between, just like making a conditional format. So we want to do between. Here's our minimum number, it says 1,000, and then our maximum number is 5,000. Just as it says here. And that makes it exclusive, you don't have to do anything different. And then it says, set the stop style alert. So we move over to the error alert tab, and then the first thing that you see is a style. If you push the down arrow, there's several styles. Stop, warning, and information. It says to use the stop style, so we click on that. And then it says for the titles that transfers, type that. Transit. And then for the error message, it says invalid fare. So type in that in the next box below. It says error message. After we have that, we just click OK. Then if we go back in, notice that we don't really see anything here until we were to try to type an invalid number. But if we press this down arrow here under the data validation, you see there's an option that says circle invalid data. So go ahead and click that, and then notice it'll put a nice little red circle there for the data that's too high. Circle, go up to the data validation again. If you push the down arrow, you'll see it as the second option, circle invalid data. Alright, so now what we're going to do is share the worksheet and change the data, so that way we can tell what data was changed. In order to do that, you have to set the track changes on the Excel spreadsheet. So that way Excel will keep track of what was changed and by whom. So if we go over to review again, the review tab, notice that in the changes group, there's a button that says track changes. So if we click that button, we have to click highlight changes. And then here's the button that says set the track changes while editing option. That's this checkbox right here, track changes while editing. And it also shares the workbook with others. So we click the checkbox. And it doesn't say to change, it says accept all the defaults. So everyone would be, this spreadsheet would be shared with everyone, and it'll highlight the changes that they make. So we click OK there, and it says, it's warning you that this action is going to share the workbook. It means more than one person can work on the workbook at the same time. So we click OK. And it says now save a copy of the worksheet save a copy of the worksheet as _2. So go to File, Save As. Make sure, that's why I said to make the folder so we know where it is. So go into your folder and just add _2 to the file name. You have to save your file. Your file, save that. And do file, save as again. And give it an _2. Good. All right. Click save there. So now take a look at the very, very top of your spreadsheet. Two things you should see. You should see the _2 at the end, and then you should see some brackets with the word shared in it. If you look all the way at the top, that's the status of your workbook. And right now our status is shared. So that's how you can tell if your workbook is shared or not. Then it says change our username to Ann McCoy. So go ahead and go back to File, down to Options, and take out first and last and make that say Ann with a capital A, capital M, lowercase c, and then a capital C-O-Y. And we click OK there. Then it wants us to scroll to cell C22. So click C22, which is where our message is saying that the amounts may be incorrect. And we're going to enter this. C22, the value will be 4875.50. That's not the right time. 4875.50. Press enter. And then we move to cell E13, which is where our next comment is. And that changes to 216. Press enter there and it will change. And notice that there's a red dot in the corner and there's a blue over to the right, which shows you, if you hold your mouse over to the blue or to the left-hand side of the cell, it shows you the changes that were made and what date and time and by whom. So Excel keeps track of what changes were made and when. Then it says to accept all the changes by and. So if we go back to the track changes, we press the down arrow, notice that now we have accept reject changes. So if we click there, it's going to make you save the worksheet first, so we click OK. And then track changes comes up. It says to accept all the changes by Ann McCoy. So when, we don't know exactly when she changed it, we know who we want to change. So click the who button and press the drop down and you should get two names. Choose the one that says Ann McCoy. And if we press OK, it'll come up and show you the change that she made, this to this. And it just wants you to accept them all. So we can just click accept all. Then we need to save that worksheet and then close it. Once we close it, we need to go back to our folder and open the original document. So here's my chapter 10. Don't open the second one, just the first one that we had before. So double click and open our original file. And then we scroll to number 4. Okay, anybody have that? Okay, now we get to change our username back to last name, first name. We go back to File, Options. Notice that when you change the username, it's not specific to the worksheet that's open. It's specific to the Excel program itself. So it doesn't matter what file's open, the username always stays the same until you change it. So we change that to first and last. Okay. Now we need to add a new button to our quick access bar. Quick access bar, if you remember, is at the very, very top left where the little purple save button is. So somewhere in that group, if we just right click and click, there's an option that says customize the ribbon. Go ahead and click there. And this window should show. Save what, the original file? If you didn't save it in the folder, go to the download. Start. Close that one. Alright. Once you look up here, these are all the options that you can add to the ribbons. You can customize the large ribbon, quick access bar, and the tabs. So this is the list of items you pick, and then you can add it by clicking on the add button and remove it. Anything that's over here is what's going to show on our bar. So let's look. We're going to press the down arrow here and choose all commands. What we're looking for is, if we look down here, it says the compare and merge. So it's in alphabetical order, so just scroll down. Should be a little circle.
Right there. Move your mouse down.
Yeah, there we go. Make it this no icon. Yep, like compare and merge, looks like that. And click on the add button.
Shouldn't it be on the quick access toolbar, not the ribbon?
Oh, yeah, thank you. So if you're in this screen, close this and we'll do this one in a minute. Right click and go back up to the quick access bar and right click, thank you. Go to the quick access, customize quick access toolbar. And then do the same thing, click the drop down arrow, choose all commands, and scroll down and find compare and merge. And then click on add and it'll place it in your list. And then we just click OK there, and notice that we now have a little circle in our quick access bar. Okay, now we're going to merge the two worksheets together. So click on the compare and merge button, and it asks you which file would you like to merge. Find it from the folder, chapter 10 folder. Going to merge the _2. Click OK there, and it doesn't really look like anything happened. So then we have to see in the track changes if the changes from N. McCoy actually moved over. You have the evidence still? You're not shared anymore. Yeah, open up the one you saved. You saved that.
The second one.
Where's the first one you downloaded? Did you save it?
That's
You
just
were working on it?
I think it's
Yeah, you can do it and try it. So you go back to review. Track changes, you have to highlight the changes. Click there, click page. And then try it. Click on pages. And I'll find the one with _2. before you start the assignment, if you don't make sure you have a folder with the original file saved in it before you start, it's not gonna work. It'll say it cannot merge the document, because in order to merge it, it has to be a copy of the original, which is why we saved it as a number 2. So if you get the error that can't merge this file, you have to delete the second one and start the first file again. Build it back up, enable the changes. When it says you want to save this worksheet, you click OK to save it and make sure it's in the same folder. It's not going to work. Okay. So let's go to, with the merge, and go to review, and back to track changes, and now the accept changes is lit again. We click accept reject, choose by who, and we should have a drop down for Ann McCoy because our worksheets merged together. Click OK, and then it shows the same changes that we made in worksheet, the second one. So accept all of those, and the changes are now in this one workbook. Okay, the next part.
You said I'd do a little bit left.
What's that?
Clear the track changes and remove the workbook from the shared.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, where's the email? Yeah, before it says clear the track changes or editing option and remove the workbook from shared. That all happens in one step. If we go back into changes, click the track changes button. If we click highlight track changes and just uncheck this box, it'll take it out of save, or out of shared rather. So uncheck the box, click OK. It says this action will remove from shared and erase the history. We say yes, and there's our file. Notice that up here it's not shared. So click save and scroll down. Okay. Another feature in Excel is you can inspect the document for changes and errors and different values. So this one says inspect the document for all changes, content, except for comments and annotations. Remove all the document's personal properties and personal information. So if you were making this a final and you were going to send it around for others to use, you probably want to take your personal information out of there. So there's a handy tool that does that. If we go to File, you go down to, in the second section it says Inspect Workbook, click the check for issues, and the first option says Inspect Document. So we click that and we have these options of what to check for. It says to look for everything except for comments and annotations. So uncheck this very first box there and then press inspect, or click inspect. And if you scroll through that, it'll show you some that's been changed, some that hasn't. Alright, so if we scroll down, we don't have anything changed in the data mono or micros, but we have some custom XML data. This is of course for the grader, so we leave that alone. But it says to remove all the document properties and personal information. notice there's an exclamation point here, and it actually tells you there's document properties being the author and a path to a workbook. So we're gonna remove all of those. So go ahead and click on remove. Takes it away. If you scroll back up, notice we now have a check next to the document properties, the first one. And then you can click close there and go back to the workbook there. All right. The next step is micros. I'll talk a little bit about this. This is as far as we'll go. We'll record a little micro. You can actually program function buttons inside Excel. A click here button, an OK button, alert boxes. You can allow people to submit a form straight to an email. All this with micros. And micros is a C+ programming language. And you can embed it into an Excel file. So we'll just take a look at it. We'll modify some code. I'm not going to talk exactly about each of the functions and all the values in the code, but we'll work with it just a little bit. So in order to do that, you have to enable the Developers tab. So in order to enable the Developers tab, just right-click somewhere in this white space or somewhere in your ribbon. Right-click and go to Customize the ribbon. Then if you look over here, these are all the main tabs that we use, View, Review. There's a Developer right here. Just go ahead and click on that checkbox if you don't already have the Developer tab. And then it should click that little checkbox, and then you press OK. And then you should see right next to the pivot table should be a Developers tab once you press OK. Go ahead and click on that, and there to the far left in the code area is Visual Basic and the micros. Visual Basic is the studio that converts our code into readable computer language. And then we have the micros area. In this next step, you have to perform all of these steps in exactly correct, or the micros is not going to record. So the next thing it says is we're going to record a micro named insert info. And it says to start the recording, without selecting row 1, we're going to right click, insert a row, click in a cell, and type a name. If you make a mistake on this step and you start tapping the back arrow, back button, it's going to mess up your code. So if you make a mistake, you'll have to stop the micros, start it over again. So be very, very, very careful when we start recording it. Okay, so let me show you. First it says select row 1. So I have to scroll up on mine. So take the mouse over to row 1 with arrows pointing and just click. And that'll select the whole row. So that's where we will start our micros. Then it says to record a micro named insert info. So if we look in our code group, up at the very, very top, it says insert micro, record micro. Go ahead and click that button. And the first thing it asks you for is a name. So this is insert info. Notice the 2 I's are capital and there's no space. Make sure you type it exactly like that. And for those of you that are curious, this is called camel case. In programming language, you'll smash words together because a lot of times having spaces in it the computer doesn't recognize the space. So you'll smash 2 words together and capitalize the first 2. It's called camel case. Just a little piece of information. Okay. So we got insert info. It doesn't say to do anything else except for it says in this workbook. So we're storing the micro in this workbook. And then we leave the rest of it alone. Once we press OK, it's going to start recording all of our actions that we type or do to the worksheet. Okay, so at this point, once you click OK, to follow the steps exactly. So we click OK. And it says, without reselecting row 1, right-click the row header of row 1, shortcut menu, insert. So hold the mouse over row 1, use the right mouse button, and then click insert. And it will make a row. And then it says insert, how does it? Select A1 and type first, last, no period. So we just click A1 and type first, space, last. No backspacing, no space after it, and no period. Then it says press enter, and then stop the micro. So go up here in the code group, you'll see the button now says stop micro, push that button, and it'll save that micro inside. Okay? And we'll take a look at what that did a little later. We'll look at it, yeah. Okay. The next thing you can do, so that would create the micros for you automatically. If you wanted a button to insert a row and insert the name, we now can take that code, put it in a button, and the user could click that and it will insert that row and put the name in it. So you can pretty much do anything by recording it and save the code for you. You wouldn't really have to code it yourself. So it's really kind of neat. The next way you could do it is actually type in some code. So I'm going to show you how to make a manual micro. So, or it's called a module once you make it yourself. So from the Visual Basic application, we're going to insert this code. So we click on Visual Basic, and notice this automatically shows. We don't need to see that. Go to Insert, and there's one that says Module. And this is just a blank area, so you can copy straight from this worksheet. You have to copy these 2 lines. Just right click and copy and paste it in here. And then if you scroll to the next page, you have the rest of it. Copy, paste it in. Okay, so that's going to make a microname insert. So we just click save right there. We can't save. Just what you do is minimize this, push this minimize button, take you back to your spreadsheet. And then you can run it, and what it does is makes a footer in your document for you. Puts the page name in the footer. So click on your micros button here, and notice we have now one that says insert file name. Highlight that and just click the run button. And again, it doesn't look like anything happened, but if you go to file and then print, you should see the file name right here. You have some kind of text down there at the bottom. Okay, then we're going to edit our current micro. So if we click on the micros button again, and the one we made, the insert info, click on the edit button and see all the code it made for us. But because we were recording a micro, it adds all these extra spaces right here. So just click to the left of the S and press backspace to get rid of those. And then you're going to remove this one little comment here. So it should look like this with no spaces. It has the sub, one little comment saying the name of it, and then all of the code that we did. And then all you need to do is highlight that, right click and copy. Highlight, right click, copy. Minimize this and go back to your worksheet. And you'll scroll down to A25 and just right click and paste it. And you'll just paste that code right down in there.
Mine doesn't look like that.
There's 2 more steps. Then you go to, and I'll take a look. The next thing to do is save the workbook as Micro's free, so click the save button. When it says Micro's free, you say yes. Click OK, and that's fine because we printed our micros there. And the last one is to protect the worksheet. So if we go to the review tab, notice that in the changes group, there's one that says protect sheet. Now, there's 2 buttons, protect workbook and protect sheet. This one, it says protect the Excel workbook using success 13 exclamation point. So click protect workbook and type success, capital S, UCCESS, 13 and the exclamation point. Click OK. It asks you to type it once more. Click OK. Then it tells you to remove these tools. So we got to right click, go back to the customize the ribbon, remove the developers, uncheck this box, and right click and customize our quick access toolbar. And we click on compare and merge and remove it. And then save that. We click OK. Don't forget, if you submit it and you have to make changes, when you download it again, you're gonna have to unprotect it in order to make any changes. Because notice, watch, you double click here, try to make changes. You're gonna come up with an error when you try to save it. It's a blocked workbook. So you'll have to go in here and click on the unprotect sheet. In order to make the changes. Up here it'll say unprotect when you download it. Okay. Save that, submit it to the